giving it's me and the girls. Welcome or welcome back to another episode of the For the Healthy Host podcast. Now, why I got a little lost right there. We talk about conscious living, self-awareness, and everything in between. I'm your host, Ree. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here and allowing me to be a part of your journey. Before we dive into today's conversation, let's just take a moment. You already know the drill. Deeply inhale through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. We just want to get acquainted with how we feel, but also this may be the first moment throughout the day where you actually got a chance to take a breath. So this moment is just to breathe as well. Roll your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Allow yourself to surrender to the flow of the current moment, the flow of your current energy, frequency. Oh, that feels so good. Like breathing literally is my favorite thing to do. So, first and foremost, I've been sick. I got sick again for the second time in 1 month. So that's why I wasn't here last week. That's why we didn't have a meditation episode last week as well. And yes, physically, I was down and out. I'm better now. We're better physically. But mentally, it's like I'm trying to play catch up because obviously when you are physically ill, you are not doing your normal routine. You're not doing your normal rituals. And in that moment, in those times, it reminds me of how much of a foundation, how much my routines just mean to me. So right now I'm trying to catch up. And although when I say my routine and my ritual, I mean my self-care things, but I also mean this podcast too, because not being able to be here and create a safe space for myself and the community, it drove me. So your girl was sick. She's recovering mentally, mostly mentally, but also physically. But other than that, in this very moment, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty grounded. I'm feeling very much like this is where I belong. This is where I should be. Earlier, there was this small, what really felt like anxiety, but I think it was just anticipation, as I've said before. The conversation for today, it has been in the works for 2 weeks, and it usually I don't have that long to sit with a conversation or a podcast topic, and it has created a lot of anticipation. So I'm ready to have this conversation, and also it's kind of like me being my dramatic Gemini self in true Gemini fashion. I feel like this conversation is one of those ones that I've been waiting my whole life to have. You know what I mean? And it didn't hit you until just damn, that's the conversation I've been waiting my whole life to have. With that being said, today we're having a conversation about being an empath and viewing the world through an empathetic lens. Jumping right into it, or I really guess I should say, who is an empath? An empath is someone who has the extraordinary ability, because that's really what it is, to feel the experiences, the energy of other beings. And the energy and experiences that we feel often feel like they're our own. I don't know how many times that I've been present for the experience of others in a physical standpoint, but also like digitally. And I felt like that experience was my own. And I think it's important for me to note that it's extraordinary because I'm someone who thinks that, and I think a lot of people do, we think the way that we view the world, the way that we make sense of the world is normal, but it's very unique. And I thought that everyone lived life this way and everyone had this ability, but not everyone does. I believe that only 1 to 2% of the population is empaths, and that's absolutely insane. This ability, it goes beyond, like I said before, having empathy for someone. Empaths, we absorb that energy. We absorb those emotions. We literally absorb those energies, that emotion, and that experience. And that's a lot, which I'm going to get into that in a minute. Because as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, no wonder you are you. No wonder you show up the way you show up. And just for clarity purposes, you'll hear me say like a sensitive person or empath, and I use those terms synonymously, but they are not the same terms. And I need to really stop doing that, but it's just a habit that I've developed over the years as I've learned to identify with this superpower that I possess. A sensitive person is someone whose nervous system is more reactive to stimuli, like the noises out in the world, bright lights, textures, as well as emotions, but they don't necessarily absorb energy and emotions just as empaths do. And here's where it may get kind of tricky. So, an empath could be a sensitive person. Not all sensitive people can be considered empaths. A few common traits of empaths. Empaths also tend to be very, very intuitive. It's like we know without knowing how we know it. We can, I guess, generally speaking, but also when we enter a room, we can feel the vibe, we can feel the energy without knowing how, without any verbal cues, but we know what's up. Most empaths also have this like very much healing energy about them. And we tend to be creatives and artists or in some kind of profession where our heightened ability to sense others' emotions and energy is helpful and where we can serve humanity. It's so funny. I will never forget about 5 or 6 years ago, before I had become aware of the superpowers and the magic within, I walked into a store, like a spiritual boutique. It's actually called Spiritual Awakening. And as soon as I walked in, the owner was like, it was like he was taken aback. He was like, "Are you a healer?" And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not in the professional. No, I'm not. My profession isn't healer. It was like, "Are you sure? Like you're not a nurse? You're like, no, you have this really healing energy about you. What do you do?" At the time, I was like, "Oh, I'm a YouTuber. I create videos. Like I'm very passionate about it. I love the process. I love connecting. I create these recipes. I show my healthy lifestyle. I show my rituals that ground me." He like, "That's the healer." I'm like, damn, I guess you're right. I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't think of what I was doing at the time as a healer. I'm a creative. This is what I like to do. But even if you zoom out a little bit and pay attention to where I am now in this creative journey, like what I do now for a quote unquote profession. And it's like I've gotten even more deeply rooted into this healing energy and soul work that I do on a weekly basis. In that moment, I'm actually realizing that now that may have been the start of this journey of me like realizing my healing powers, the magic. I will never forget that moment in my life. I stepped away from that moment, like constantly thinking about, like, whoa, I'm a healer, I'm a healer. That moment, I'm telling you, it did a lot for me. I've been able to really embrace who I am and what apparently I made a contract with the universe that the human me just doesn't quite remember, but my spirit is guiding me closer and closer to whatever that was meant to be, like whatever I agreed on. and I'm showing up how I need to show up, and I'm stepping into the things that I need to step into. Yeah, I kind of got lost in that a little bit, but that's cool too because that's what we're here for. But empaths also tend to be very sensitive to like whatever environment that we are in. I will never forget. I won't forget because it just happened a couple weeks ago. I tend to stay in my home. Okay, I tend to stay right here in my house. But sometimes I like to step out and do my work. I wanted to go to a coffee shop to do my work that day. And I had a really hard time concentrating. Like I could hear every noise. I could hear every chair scoot. I could hear every side conversation. I could hear every coffee order that was being made. I could hear it all. And it was very overwhelming for me. It was very overwhelming to my nervous system. And the following day, I was like, listen, I'm going to just stay at home. That was a lot for us. We're going to stay home today. We're going to work from home today. Or go to a quieter place like the library. The library is cool too, but they be having conversations as well, but it is less noisy. And like that should be a lot to my body. It be a lot to my spirit, to my mental. And I just be overstimulated a lot when I step outside my house. Like the world is loud. The world is so loud. But that's something I'm working on. But it's definitely a common trait for empaths. With that being said, I want to share my world through a very much empathetic lens, a very much sensitive girly lens. And the Virgo rising in me really wants to like organize my struggles, my triumphs, and my realizations. But the way that it is taking shape in my mind is like they merge and they're all intertwined. So just bear with me. I be confused. I was confused a lot because often it was hard for me to decipher what feelings, what energy, like what energy and emotion, you know what I mean, is mine and what is not. What have I picked up along the way and I've carried with me like it was my own? As someone who has really big feelings, like all by herself, like that shit is a lot. So I often found myself, this is the realization I'm having literally in this moment. I think I often confused shape shifting my identity with actually shape shifting my energy and taking on different energies that weren't necessarily mine. I'm blown, and it was such a natural thing for me to do because it was all I had known, but it left me very confused. It left me, I don't know, that confusion often manifested into like sadness or like feeling lost or having this lack of self-awareness and just my place in the world, like so confused. But I've learned to, a long time ago, truly get rid of that confusion with self-awareness, getting to know myself deeply. And that just looked like checking in. Like when we hear self-awareness, it sounds like this big word, right? Like this such an elevated word with so much complexities. And yes, but also no, like, how are you doing? How many times have you asked yourself, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? What's going on within today? Up until a few years ago, I rarely asked myself, how are we doing? To me, that's a very basic level of self-awareness. What are you feeling? Is this your energy or is that somebody else's? Oh, you know what? I was around my homegirl today and she was feeling down. That's why I'm feeling down. It's making sense. And another tip on going back just a little bit, but not too far, on being very sensitive to like the world. A lot of times I can feel very overwhelmed and not really understand like what the fuck, why am I so overwhelmed in this moment? Like what? Like I ain't even been through nothing really. I haven't experienced any like heightened emotions really, but I'm overwhelmed. And it'd be like a build up. Or like not only a build up of these certain events, but also like you thought you were good in that situation. while it was happening. And it turns out you weren't. You were actually hella overwhelmed. Your nervous system was actually very reactive in that environment. And you didn't even know. Like, that's what it is. Going back to point A, which is why it's so important to check in. Like, how you doing? What's really good with you? Like, that's a mission of mine to ask myself, how are you doing? How do you feel today? Why do you feel this way? Self-awareness. The way I'm about to say this, it may sound like it's just such a great thing, and it was a struggle that I didn't realize until a few days ago. But energy absorption was my religion. It was my ethos. It was like, it was something very heroic about it for me. Like, if I can just feel what someone else is feeling, internalize it, live like it was my own experience. I feel like somewhere deep in my subconscious, I thought I was doing a good thing. I thought I was being very heroic. Like, I thought I was loving. I thought it was very, like, strong of me to be able to harbor the emotions of those I love. And I mean, shit, those that I didn't even fucking know. It was something very, like, heroic. And honestly, my shadow self right here, right now, was like, she's not wrong. But no, she is very wrong. She's very wrong. That in itself, it made me live life so intensely, like, so dramatically. My existence was just so intense for no fucking reason at all. Like, why? Why? I've learned that absorption is not the flex. Connectedness is very much the flex. For me to be able to feel, not internalize, not absorb, but feel someone else's experience, someone else's energy and emotions as if they were my own, in a way that is damn near impossible, damn near like unearthly. Like, how did you know? Like, how are you able to verbalize that, right, and make those words or that music, whatever, come to life? That's unearthly. Like, I was feeling that, and you were able to say that. That's crazy. And we use this understanding, this ability, this power to serve humanity, to heal humanity, to connect with humanity, to create safe spaces for humanity. That's the flex, babes. That is the flex. The realest shit I ever heard. Observe. Do not absorb. Mind blown, mic drops, because what? Observe. Do not absorb, baby. Do yourself that one solid in this lifetime, and everything will be okay. So earlier I kind of talked about overstimulation, and I mean, I done already went on a rant about it, but I be overstimulated as fuck. And I've had to set boundaries with myself, right? I feel like we can't set boundaries with others, with the world, if we haven't said boundaries with ourselves, because it's really not a boundary if you don't set it with yourself first. My boundaries are, I have to have my alone time. I have to have my alone time. Like, I have to recharge. Like, I literally have to be alone for at least, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, because, like, what? About 1 to 2 hours a day. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't always get that, but I know, like, that would be ideal. Like, that's the best case scenario. And I don't always get that, but I have to have my alone time. I have to have some kind of alone time to recoup, to recharge, because, babe, I just burned so much energy and I'm tired. I'm so tired. My boundary is that I have to trust myself. Trusting myself is quite literally law. Um, like, that's one of my laws. I have to trust myself. And it's something that I've had to, like, learn. But when I don't trust myself, like, I crash out. It's not cute. I'm gonna talk a little bit about intuitiveness in a minute, but I gotta trust in myself is law. Also, I don't do anything that I don't want to do. Like, no is my answer. Like, a no is a no. I don't go anywhere I don't want to go. A no is a no. I mean, no is no. And this is more so like a lot of obviously these are boundaries for myself, but also like the outside world. But I feel like this one is, I don't know, it's even more like for me centered. I protect my energy. I am very careful what I allow into my space. I'm very careful of who I allow into my space because I absorb. I try not to, but like it's a process, and I've done it for quite literally all my life. But I tend to like harbor onto energy, onto whether it be TV, whether it be a person, whether it be social media, okay? Whether it be my damn self, like thinking about the worst case scenario, thinking about a previous experience, allowing my limiting beliefs to guide me. Hell no. Nah. Like, I gotta protect my energy. I have to be careful with what I allow into my space. And that's me being firm with myself first, firm but gentle with myself. Like, listen, no, like I have to literally stand up to myself sometimes because I've cultivated some of these habits that are not necessarily healthy for my physical body, for my mental or spiritual self. But because they are a habit and because I am human and because of neuroplasticity, I want to automatically do them, even if they don't serve me. But I have to stand up to myself and be like, no. Like, I swear them no's, they be the most challenging when they are to yourself. When you got to tell you no, then come talk to me. Then we can talk about something. When you have had to tell yourself no, and when you went through with it, then we can chat. You know, I'm hilarious. While on the topic of boundaries, this isn't necessarily a boundary, but more of a realization. Having a safe haven is so important. Like having a space where you feel safe as an empath, as any being, because you deserve that. You're worthy of that. But especially as someone who like is sensitive, is an empath. Like that shit is so important. My safe space for me is my bedroom. Like I just feel, and I didn't realize it till a couple of weeks ago. I was just like, you're always up here. I've set the ambiance. I got my little propagated plants. I got my little lights, my little lamp. I was like, what? My little lamp, my little humidifier, my Nang Champa be lit up. It is just such a safe space for me. And I mean, I have multiple safe spaces, and I think safe spaces and a safe haven, it can take on many shapes and forms. Like, because some of us, it may not be physical space. I've been in a place where I did not have a physical space that I felt safe in. That's just the cards that I was dealt. From that, I learned that a safe space, a safe haven can also be an act. It could be a creative act. It could be a person. It could be a community. It could be your inner world, which, side note, my inner world is so colorful. Like most empaths, our inner world is crazy. It's so rich. Like there's a whole world up here happening. And no one knows, which is also kind of mysterious. Like I love that about me. Like my world is so colorful. Like it's a whole playground, and I love it, and I protect it, and I guard it. Yeah, like your safe haven. Having a safe haven is so important, and there are no limits to it. Like your safe haven may be something that I couldn't ever possibly imagine, and I love that. Something that I was gonna say when I was talking about self awareness, I punked out of it for whatever reason. I don't know. It's stupid. But developing a spiritual practice, and I don't know. I think in society the word spiritual is often tied to religion, and it's not always that. Like I myself I don't belong to any organized religion, but I am a very spiritual being. And I've had to really cultivate these spiritual practices that nourish my soul, that allow me to show up how I need to show up. And I owe it my life. Like, I literally owe it my entire existence. Right? So spirituality, or like the word spiritual, it can be a practice. Like for me, it is like meditation, my yoga, eating healthy, but also spirituality is a way of life. Like literally, the creation of life is a spiritual act. And I don't think people understand that. There is a source that created all of us. That is a spiritual act. So by existing, we are quite literally spiritual beings. I'm not gonna take y'all all the way there with that one. I know, and I'm guilty of it in this realm of connectedness and spirituality and healing. We talk about alone time and self-awareness and getting to know who you are, and that is very necessary. Alone time is necessary. Being able to confide in yourself, it is necessary. But I would be lying if I said it's not important to have someone you can confide in, someone who just gives a fuck. Like someone in your corner who cares about you, someone who wants to understand you, someone who wants to see the good in you, who wants to see you evolve and realize your full potential. Like that shit is so important. But I'm also human enough to know that not everyone has that. As someone who, I feel like when I was born into this world, I had a physical person that cared about me deeply, who I could tell anything to, who I could be myself with. There was no mask whenever this person was present. And that was my grandmother. She's my angel now. I lost, or I guess I should say she transitioned because she's still here with me. Damn, was that like almost 20 years ago now? And for a while, I was without that person. I was without my person until maybe a few years later, I found that person again. But in between that space, at the time I didn't know. A lot of my life is like at the time I didn't know, but as I reflect, I'm like, wow, that is what was happening. I realized that sometimes it's not a person. Sometimes it's a thing. Sometimes it's an outlet. Sometimes it's a creative act. Sometimes it's a place. Sometimes it's not even something that is earthly. Sometimes it's God. Sometimes it's spirit. Sometimes it's your ancestors, spirit guides. And sometimes it's all of it. That's been important. It has been necessary. And it has felt so good. And last but certainly not least is trusting myself, trusting my intuition. I don't know. I think first and foremost, I followed it a lot more than I think I have, but also the voices are getting louder. The visions are getting more vivid. The feeling is beginning to be more intense, and I just can't ignore it. And I really have had to learn to lean in and trust what I see, trust what I hear, trust what I know without knowing. I think the resistance to do so stems from the world that we live in. I blame the world for fucking everything. Welcome to this podcast. I think society is rooted in tangible. We're rooted in like wanting to prove things. Like we have to hold things in our hands in order for them to be factual. But although my intuitiveness and trusting myself may not be factual, it's damn sure rooted in truth. And, you just can't hold truth in your hand. Unfortunately, I've gotten to a place though, and I'm so grateful where I've stopped looking for tangible. Feeling trumps everything for me. Like, what? It literally trumps everything. And when I allow this feeling to guide me, when I allow spirit and what I know without knowing how I know to guide me, and I trust in it, It has never led me astray. I've never fallen when I've surrendered to spirit. Just like with anything, in order to strengthen your intuition and trust yourself, trust what you see, you have to literally practice it. It is a practice. It's not something that, oh, when I say, oh, I'm going to start trusting my intuition, like, yeah, something does click in you, like it clicked in me when I became aware of it. But it's not, that doesn't necessarily mean that it happens automatically. No, it is a practice. If you want to get good at anything, this included, you have to practice. We live in a world where a lot of us don't even know what we believe. It's unfortunate, but it's okay because you can rewrite what you believe at any given moment. At any given moment. So how can we lean more into the practice and the birthright that is intuitiveness? We ask ourselves the questions that somehow got lost in the abyss of humanity. As we bring this conversation to a close today, I want to ask you, what do you believe in? Yeah, what do you believe in? What do you accept? And what do you know to be true from existential wisdom, from spiritual wisdom, from ancestral wisdom? I'm going to read mine out loud because this was actually a journal entry for me. And I don't know, I think this will be a cute little way for us to connect. Share if you feel moved to. If you don't, please don't. Like, this is something that is so sacred. And if you are not there yet, please keep it to yourself. Like, that is your birthright. You deserve to do that. But if you want to share, please share, because I'm going to share my little journal entry. I'm going to read it from my phone. Yeah, girl. I'm excited. So again, the question is, what do you accept, believe, or know to be true from existential, spiritual, or ancestral wisdom? Not gonna lie, this mic is heavy and I'm like weak and tired because I'm getting over my cold, but I believe in God. I believe in source energy. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. After all, 95% of energy in the universe is unknown, which really paints a beautiful picture of how much we actually don't fucking know. And I'm okay with not knowing. But here's what I do know. Here's what I do believe. I believe and accept fluidity. Change is constant. It's the only thing that is constant. I believe in love. Love will save us all. I believe that I am a goddess. I am a direct creation of God, of source energy. Therefore, I am a goddess. It's like DNA, but this time it's stardust. I am the universe experiencing itself. I believe that nothing happens by accident. I believe and I know that every experience is an opportunity for me to be more of myself. I believe that I am protected and guided by sources that precede this realm. I often feel the presence of those energies. I feel their protection. I feel their guidance. I feel their support. And I've reached a space where I've allowed every part of me to surrender to the angelic and incomparable feeling of being held, of being supported, of being protected. I know that I see things without knowing how. I know that I hear things without knowing how. I know that I know things without knowing how, and I believe what I see. I believe what I hear. I believe what I know because I know what I know, and knowing what I know without knowing how I know it is ultimately spirit. It's ultimately source connecting with me, manifesting through me, trusting in me with something so sacred as a whisper, as a vision, as a nudge, as truth, something as sacred as connectedness, as unity, as community. That's how I know. That's what I know. That's what I believe, and I accept and surrender to all that I'll never know. After listening to my entry, and also while writing your own, I want you to understand that having beliefs does not mean that they are unchanging or certain or to be imposed on anybody else. They are just simply beliefs. With that being said, I really appreciate you for being here with me today, for spending time with me today, and I'm sending you so much peace, so much love, so much abundance, and everything you need in this moment. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.